As Archduke Benjamin Franklin once said, imagination is the one weapon in our war against reality. They were stirring words then, and Sony show a keen understanding of history by bringing them back today.
As do you.
You might think it's just pure hyperbole, nonsensical bullshit that Sony are opening their press conference with, but no. This is about the nature of reality, of play. That's enough of that.
Yeah.
I'm Cam from the Australian team. This is Luke. We thought we'd just do a quick kind of chat to run through the PS4 event because it was really exciting, and I think Sony played this one pretty well, and the system looks awesome.
Yeah, it was a lengthy presentation, but it was a really confident one. And one of the things I liked most about it is that it was really game driven. And if it wasn't about the games, it was about the technology behind the games.
Yeah,
which is, I think, what people want to see.
I mean, the interesting thing for me is that I actually came out kind of much more interested in the kind of the thinking behind the system and the services they're putting in place and the technology they're putting in place to enhance the gaming experience more so than the actual games that they showed at the conference itself. Like, I really love the kind of connectivity that's driving this. You know, the Facebook integration, like a social network kind of platform that makes sense. The ability to record and upload footage, to watch other people playing live, hop in and control somebody else's game if they need a hand.
Yeah,
I think all that stuff's really cool.
Really fascinating stuff. I like how that it's going to seed your friends from these existing Facebook networks. So I mean, one of the things I dislike about sort of online gaming is how anonymous it is.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of having sort of a more personal sort of feel to proceedings.
Yeah.
That's just something that appealed to me.
Yeah, totally. So what would you say your kind of main highlights from the conference
Well,
were?
it was a really games-driven conference, and so, I mean, the bulk of my highlights are games.
Right.
And as a real racing fan, I thought Evolution's Drive Club presentation, that was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and it turns out that rumor about that game existing was pretty much right on the money, because this does look like the spiritual successor to Test Drive.
Definitely.
And it's interesting. I mean, you know, everyone says this kind of stuff all the time. Like, they've sat on this trademark for 9 years, and I can remember chatting to some of these guys when they released Motorstorm at the dawn of PS3, and they were saying, "Oh, this is the game we've always wanted to make after having to work with the WIC license for so long."
Yep.
And now it's like, this is the game we've always wanted to make as well. But you're sort of looking at it, you're like, I can see where they're going with this, like a really social game.
So is this what's going to get you kind of playing online more? Because both you and I we like single player experiences. We don't really like playing against anonymous people online very much. But this is it's team focused.
Yeah.
It's all about racing as part of a team, challenges, whether that's real time or asynchronous. So there's kind of that auto log kind of vibe to it as well.
Yeah.
So you think this is going to be?
It could be. I mean, the confidence that Sony has displayed in this game, like, I guess it speaks volumes about hopefully it speaks volumes about the quality of something like Drive Club. Is that Drive Club was the racing game that Sony came to this conference with.
Yep.
And it wasn't Gran Turismo 6.
Yep.
Like, I mean.
But does that say more about polyphony than it does?
That's true. I mean, great graphics aren't everything, but looking at that game, looking at the way those vehicles are crafted, and sort of the way they were sort of waxing about the thread counts in the upholstery and all that sort of.
Yeah. Well, I pay attention to the thread counts in my sheets, so why shouldn't I pay attention to the thread counts in my virtual cockpits?
Yeah. But no, I mean,
Sorry, anytime I say cock, things just go wrong.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights.
Yep.
And one of the other highlights for me was Watch Dogs, which probably comes as no surprise, but and everyone kind of saw it coming, particularly when Ubisoft came up on stage. But as soon as they started previewing another section of Watch Dogs, which is completely different from the section we saw at E3, it just made me increasingly confident that this game is going to be everything that they're setting out to do, or they're describing that it will be. You know what I mean? Like,
it just seems so freeform. It just
seems
seems to
massive,
give the player so much power. So to kind of combat that power, there's going to have to be some really interesting systems in place to kind of curb the player, and I think that dynamic's going to work really well. And I also think that Watch Dogs, I mean, thinking back to the presentation at E3 last year, I mean, everything they've been saying around that game is exactly what Sony's really trying to achieve with PlayStation 4.
This connectivity and
exactly, yeah. So they're a really, really good kind of match I mean, how do you like? Would you prefer to see Watch Dogs solely on next-gen systems so they can kind of fully take advantage of all that connectivity, or?
I guess, I mean, that all depends. I mean, there was a period last generation where we saw a bunch of games straddle two generations, and it's just kind of what happens. Really, like Ubisoft want to have a game that pushes, certain boundaries, and that they, that can be large enough to cater for their ambition, but they also need to make a bunch of money.
Yeah, of course.
And there's there's already 70, 80 million Xboxes and PlayStation 3s out there, so realistically speaking.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. And like when companies have been working on these games behind the scenes for so many years, like it's not necessarily that simple a process to kind of, bring in new sets of features and that kind of stuff. But yeah, my highlights were probably The Witness. Even though I still don't have a clear idea of exactly how those kind of puzzles work. But
it's tough to demo a puzzle game though.
Yeah. I just love like everything that Jonathan Blow said in that presentation really spoke to me. The game's designed to be open world but very dense, no filler. The graphic, the visual design is just lovely. I think it looks gorgeous, and I just love that kind of core concept of like it's about the moment when you shift from kind of confusion and not really understanding what you're doing to getting it. It's that epiphanic kind of moment, and they're trying to replicate that over and over again because they are like some of the most satisfying moments in playing games. And clever puzzles, they are driven, your reaction's driven by that kind of emotion. So I really, really love that. So I can't wait to see more on that. I think it's really smart for Sony to. I think it's a timed exclusive, but I think it's really smart for Sony
That's what it sounded like from the language
to
he was
partner
using.
to partner with him because Braid was such a huge success. The other game I'd just like to quickly mention, which is not really necessarily a game, but I loved Media Molecule's presentation.
I mean,
I love that kind of sculpting in 3D and populating a world and setting up, there's a lot of kind of like turning dreams into reality, kind of airy kind of talk, but those guys just make creating stuff so much fun. Like what I love about their titles is that they put power in the hands of the players, but they always anchor it in their own kind of aesthetic kind of vision. So even in something like Little Big Planet where you're creating your own stuff, it's still got that kind of Media Molecule feel about it. And they've got such great artistic sensibilities that, I mean, again, I don't really kind of get how that whole band kind of thing would really work and play out, and how much intense setup would be required to do something like that. But I just love where they're coming from. I think it's really really exciting, and again, like it's just so good. Sony have some really awesome first and second party relationships, so we can expect to see some really amazing games.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just quickly, it's probably worthwhile stressing with that kind of stuff. Is that a lot of people might be watching that and go, well, how am I can't sculpt, I can't do this. How am I going to do this? And it's like, well, that's not as important as the fact that there are people out there that are going to get these tools and make incredible stuff. Like you look at Minecraft, for instance, the kind of stuff that people are making in that. It's like if you don't have the capacity to take these tools that Media Molecule are making and turn it into a clay dragon or whatever it will happen to be, whatever they were making. So other people will. And you are going to reap the benefits. So if that looks like something that's like, well, that looks interesting, but I can't do that. That doesn't matter. Because somebody will be able to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of works out. It's going to be a little bit like Spore, where you can kind of pop your world or whatever can be populated by other people's creations, or will it be something where you're pulling down scenarios or something that other people have created and playing out in full, or who knows? But very exciting. So in terms of kind of things that you like, to me, in terms of kind of lowlights, I think the event itself was kind of in the wrong order. They really had a whole lot of momentum going for the first half or 2/3, and then it kind of sputtered a bit for me.
I think they had such a strong first-party showing, and they had some great, then Jonathan Blow came out, and then they sort of petered out with a few sort of, Blizzard came out, for instance, and I know we were chatting about that. And I'm not a PC guy, I'm not a Diablo fan, I know you are.
I was so excited at that point. Because I was like, okay, new platform with, all this talk about connectivity, they talked about like on your smartphone, on the web, on your tablet, on your Vita, like all this kind of cross-platform play. And I was like, holy shit, could Blizzard be about to announce, say, their next MMO cross-play between PC and PS4? So much potential there, and then it's like, oh no, it's a game that I've already played to death, and not only is it coming on PS4 but also PS3, and you know, like I'm sure it'll be really good, but it was a bit of a letdown of a.
To me, it reminded me. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it reminded me a little bit of when we were sitting in the Wii U press conference last year at E3, and they announced Mass Effect 3. And everyone's kind of, there was like polite applause, and I was like, well, okay, but this game's like a year old. Yeah. So. Yeah.
But I mean, we still love you, Metzen, and you, Blizzard. You guys are awesome. And Diablo 3 is a great game.
That's true.
I was hoping for something kind of something new, you know, something to really look forward to rather than relive. I guess would be the thing. I mean, I think the Destiny kind of section was.
I think that felt flat.
Little flat
to you know. But I mean, I guess it's maybe it's because it was so close to all the reveal stuff they did. Like, was it last week? Something like that. Maybe it was the fact that there was sort of 4 dudes out there in one speech. And you kind of got the feeling like, is there something, you know, it's like, well, I think for a company who has been sort of absent from PlayStation users' lives since like Oni or something like that, they probably didn't do enough. I mean, you know, I'm sure all PlayStation fans are aware of Bungie by reputation, but I don't think they did quite enough to sort of to educate. And this is probably a criticism we could have leveled at them last week, and I think a lot of people did.
And this is exactly it. They're not at a stage where they're prepared to show too much. They're prepared to talk about the kind of the high concept of the game and everything. And that's great. Like, I think it sounds really intriguing. But yeah, getting up on stage and kind of having a little bit of real time in-engine stuff, and it's not really enough.
Yeah, and ultimately we don't know that much more about Destiny than we do about the bloke from Square Enix comes up and says, hey, we're making a new Final Fantasy, and it's like, well, that's hardly surprising.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, so hey, Destiny's coming. This is what it looks like. I hope you're excited about it. It's like, well, we are. It looks interesting, and you guys have a great reputation, but.
And again, like it's straddling that PS4, PS3 release. If they come out with that level of information set, and by the way, PS4 only, then I would actually be really excited because again, like, you know, it's this kind of persistent shooter world. They're trying to do some very adventurous things in terms of the community and the network and the way the game plays. And so if they came out and said PS4 only, and we're going to take advantage of all the stuff that Sony's built into this system, then that's something to get really excited about. Instead, it's like, okay, well, it's PS3 and PS4, and you know, it's going to take advantage of some of the PS4's functionality, but not all, because they got to develop for other platforms. So
not sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited.
Totally.
I don't care for a second that they didn't show what the box looks like.
It's kind of irrelevant.
You know, I think the controller's more important, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
Bravo Sony. I enjoyed that.
I was excited, and I'm still excited.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'll be doing though. I'll be turning off that thing that downloads things for you.
Right.
Like it kind of predicts what you want and downloads things for you.
Right. But
that's how Skynet. That's how Skynet starts.
But
once it starts thinking for me and telling me what I like, that's when it becomes self-aware.
But like, what if the system knows that you like DVD-A, and you can come home and bam, whole lot of porn just waiting for you. You don't even have to. Oh yeah, cut. Okay. See ya.